All right, today we're diving into something really personal, kind of poetic. It's a piece of writing that gets right to the heart of what it feels like when your own mind feels, well, vulnerable. The author just comes right out and says it. My mind is fragile and I'm afraid to ponder delicate things. Wow. I think a lot of us can relate to that feeling, that sense that your own thoughts are this delicate landscape you have to tread carefully in. This one line, it just sets the stage perfectly for everything we're about to unpack. So let's get into it. What does having a fragile mind actually feel like on the inside? Well, the author gives us a pretty clear window into the kinds of fears and anxieties that just bubble up from that feeling. Okay, so here are some of the big ones that haunt this kind of mindset. First, there's this fear that your thoughts could actually will things into reality, almost like having a superpower you can't control. Then there's the truly terrifying idea of losing your mind and being the absolute last person to realize it. And finally, just this deep dread that the end, whatever that end is, will show up and you won't even recognize it. And right in the middle of all this fear, the author asks this question that just cuts right through it all. It's like a moment to just pause and take stock of what's really on the line here. I mean, what are the stakes when it feels like your own mind is the most dangerous place you can be? Right, so this feeling of fragility, it doesn't just sit there quietly. It's not passive. As we're about to see, it grows into this really active, constant fear of just completely unraveling. And this line, wow, it's just so powerful. It perfectly captures that feeling of being right on the edge. That struggle to just hold it all together, when you feel like your internal wiring is shot. The fear isn't just about feeling weak. It's about what you might do in that moment of weakness. And this really gets at the internal tug-of-war, doesn't it? On one side, you have this raw, destructive impulse, this urge to just wreak havoc when you're pushed. But on the other side, holding it back, is what the author calls a tiny piece of the self. Imagine that, a constant, exhausting battle just to keep that impulse in check. So this intense internal battle, it definitely has consequences. It starts to ripple outward, and pretty soon, the lines between what's real and what's not, well, they start to get really, really blurry. I mean, the imagery here is just stunning. The effort of just trying to stay in control is so draining that reality itself starts to feel like a facade, like it's not even real. And that metaphor of standing in the middle of mirrors, it's perfect. It just nails that feeling of being completely disoriented, not knowing which reflection is the real you. And that feeling, that lack of reality, it sends the author spiraling into some deep philosophical territory. You start asking these huge questions. Is life just a replay? Are we in a simulation? Or is the only reality we have the one we perceive, even if it feels totally distorted? These aren't just fun thought experiments. For the author, they're urgent questions coming from a place of real crisis. And here's where we hit a really fascinating paradox. The author points out this deeply unsettling irony. What if the moments you feel the absolute sanest are actually the moments when, to everyone else, you look the furthest from it? That is such a wild thought. It completely pulls the rug out from under the whole idea of self-awareness. Which, of course, leads to the biggest question of all here. Is sanity just relative? I mean, if you feel sane, but the world sees you as not sane, who's right? Is there some objective measurement, or is it all just about perspective? So, how in the world do you live with that much fragility and uncertainty day in and day out? Well, the author talks about a really crucial coping mechanism, building a protective shield around the mind. And they say it so plainly. This is a conscious choice, a defense mechanism they've built on purpose. The idea is that their mind is this precious, delicate thing that needs to be actively protected from just how harsh the world can be. And it's so important to understand the why behind the shield. This isn't about being weak. It's about pure self-preservation. The fear is that if you let all the world's negativity and brutality in, you'll just succumb to it. You'll become part of it. And for the author, that is a personal hell. Okay, so this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle and maybe the most powerful tool for managing this whole thing, being quiet. But it's reframed in a way you might not expect, not as withdrawal, but as a real source of strength. I just love this redefinition of the word quiet. For the author, being quiet isn't about emptiness. It's the total opposite. It's when your mind is so full of thoughts that you have to be careful. It's about being intentional with your words and deliberate about how you see the world. It turns what looks like passivity on the outside into this really profound act of mindfulness on the inside.
So what does this look like in practice? Well, it boils down to 3 concrete actions. Number 1, having the strength to just walk away from things that mess with your stability. 2, having the wisdom to just observe patiently instead of reacting on impulse. And 3, having the courage to embrace that powerful, thoughtful quiet. You see how these work together? It's a shift from being a victim of your own fragility to being an active guardian of your own peace.
And here's the ultimate reason for all of it. This is what brings the whole thing full circle. These actions, walking away, observing, being quiet, they aren't just about protecting yourself. They're also about protecting other people. It all comes from this deep fear of the kind of damage a fractured mind could do if it's not kept in check.
So that leaves us with this final question to chew on. The author seems to be saying that real strength isn't about being unbreakable. Maybe true strength is found in knowing just how fragile you are and having the wisdom to build a life that protects not only yourself, but also the world around you from the broken pieces. It really makes you think, doesn't it? In a fragile mind, what's the truest form of strength?